Tony was standing outside the classroom when he heard someone called, "Hey, Tony!" Tony turned around and saw he was his best friend, Ben. "Oh, hey, Ben, you're late." "Yeah, I'm sorry, I end up in traffic, as always." "Yeah, I understand that though," said Tony, and they gave each other a high five. "So, are you looking forward to this weekend?" "You know it," said Ben. Ben and Tony actually have made plans to hang out this weekend to play video games and watch movies together as they usually do. So, any idea what type of movies you want to watch? Not really, said Tony. I mean, what about an action movie for once? Yeah, that's something we can do, said Ben Shuckleback. But the question is, which one? I mean, there are many good ones. How about Fast and Furious? That's a good choice. I mean, I have only seen the first two ones, so yeah, there are many more to watch, said Tony back. As they were talking, suddenly the teacher showed up and they walked in and started having a class. But as they were having a class though, there was a knock on the door and the principal walked in. "Oh, principal, what can I do for you?" "I'm sorry if I'm interrupting your class," said I can always make an excuse for you. So what can I do for you? "Well, we have a new student here, and her first class is English. So I would like to her to introduce her class by person. All right? Why don't you let her in?" So the principal let the new student in, and it was a young girl around the same age as Tony and Ben. "Everyone, this is Angela. Angela is a new transfer student here since her family just moved here. So I want to have her to be welcome here and feel welcomed and filled with respect as his whole stands for. Thank you, and also I have one request. If there's anyone here is willing to stand up as a guide for her today, you will be in permission to miss one of those summer classes if the need is needed." Tony immediately raised his hand. "Principal, I can do it." "I know I can trust on you, Tony." So the principal left, and teacher walked up to Angela and said, "Well, you can introduce yourself to the class." Angela was a little bit just shy at first, since she said her name was Angela, and she just moved here, and she felt grateful to be at a whole new high school. After that, the teacher said aloud to set her behind Ben, and they actually had a good conversation during the class, though. But after class was over, Ben was standing with Tony outside the hallway waiting for Angela. "So, Angela, welcome to our new school," said Tony, while shaking her head to shake her hand. This is my best friend Tony, also known as the class school's jokester." "Hey," said Tony bent back a little bit shockingly. "I'm not a jokester." "Well, I can be," said Ben with a chuckle. "Well, I should probably go to my next class. I don't want to get late," said Ben. "I'll see you at lunch though." "You bet," said Ben back when he was running into next class. "So, are you ready?" "Mm-hmm," she said back, and Tony showed her around where to find the principal's office, the nurse's office, the gym class, and some other classes. And during this time though, he did mention that, "I know what it's like to be in a whole new school. It happened I even get lost a few times in the first few days." "Really?" "Oh yeah, big time. I did. I was so confused. I mean, this is a big new school, and even I did end up trying to find the math class, but I ended up in the nurse office, and I was told by the nurse how to find it. And on the second day, I was looking for the biology class, but I ended up finding the cafeteria instead by accident." "Wow, that must be really weird." "Yeah, you tell me about it," said Tony chuckle. And after he had finished the round, showing around, he said, "I can see you later at a cafeteria if you want to. You can always sit with me and Ben at the table. Yeah, I like that. So, at lunch break, Tony was sitting by his best friend Ben, and they were just talking about his showing her around, and Ben asked him how he felt about Angela. Well, Angela seems to be a nice person, even though she's shy. But hey, that's it's quite normal when you're in around a whole new type of school environment. And I mean, new school, new environment, all that stuff. I mean, it depends on the size of the school, though. But you know what I mean. Daniel, Ben just nodded and said, "Yep, that I do. Even I know that you got lost during the first time, and so did I. So that's understandable. At least now she knows where to find some of the most important rooms in here, like restrooms, nurse office, stuff like that. Yeah. While they were talking, they saw this that Angela was holding a tray looking for them. And then Tony raised his hand and called over. She walked over to them and sat down. Well, so Angela, what do you think about school so far? Asked Ben. That's a nice school. I made a few friends. Oh, that's great. Always a good thing to make new friends, said Ben to her. Yeah, it is. But even when they were talking, suddenly there was someone standing by the table without they really realized first. So, this is the new girl I heard about. Both turned around and saw Simon. Simon was a school bully. Simon, what do you want? Said Ben, a little bit annoyed. Hush you, Ben. I just wanted to meet the new girl at school. So, you're Angela, am I right? Mm-hmm, she said with a smile. Well, I'm Ben. I'm the school's best student. But that was something that both Tony and Ben just grinned and said to themselves, as if. Turns out, even though both Simon was a good student, I mean in grades, but he was also known by the most students to be the school's bully. Even when they first, Tony and Ben used to know Simon back in middle school. Back in middle school, he was a little bit more shy type. But ever since he grew up older for the past year, since it all started in high school, things started acting a little bit differently. But even so, Simon was actually the one responsible for at least one student to drop out. He had bullied that student so much so that that student couldn't handle the pressure anymore, so just drop out. Simon, do you want something? Asked Tony. Not really. Just want to know this new girl. So, Angela, I like the school so far. It's nice, she said. So, do you like this to be as, this new nerd in school? Angela looked confused. Nerd? Yeah, you dress like a nerd. So, I think, yeah, you are the new school nerd, aren't you? Tony just looked up and said, Simon, please leave. We are trying to enjoy our lunch here. Shut up, said Simon back. I'm just trying to have a conversation with this new girl. By bullying her? Is that something you could consider as compensation? Said Ben back. Shut up. And then he suddenly said, well, I'm the school's most popular guy here. And then Ben said, as if. And then suddenly, Simon took Ben's drink and threw it in Angela's face and said, ha! As this new girl knows that's the main rule here, that no matter what you say, you're a nerd girl, and you should probably sit over there with the other nerds. Angela was stunned, shocked, confused, all at the same time, but also started crying. Simon, just quit it, said Tony. Just leave for once. But Simon just started laughing, and then, as Angela was standing up and she was about to leave the room, Simon stretched out his leg and she tripped. Oh, see the nerd girl tripping! And he started laughing, and she got up fast and ran up the cafeteria. Simon, you are going too far, said both Tony and Ben at the same time. Look what you've done. So what? She's a bit clumsy. Clumsy? You did it on purpose. Nah, I didn't do that. She was doing it on purpose. But then he started walking away laughing as nothing had happened. I can't believe it, said Tony. Yeah, same here. I mean, this is way further than he has ever done before. But then suddenly Tony just stood up. Can you take my tray just for that trash? Where are you going? Trying to find Angela. What? I don't want to have her drop out of school as further as a second student maybe I am. And then he just took off, running after Angela. He found her in the girls' restroom and knocked on the door. It was a key to come in. She nodded. She said yes. Angela, I'm sorry if you had to experience that. Simon he's a big jerk. He's always doing this to others. I can't understand why no one like him could be doing this. I'm sorry if you had to go through all this. And Angela said that was okay because she knows how this like to be bullied. She mentioned that in her old school she was bullied a lot. But not at this level, but they teased her, maybe threw a drink at her face, or make this kick my sign back, or maybe said some bad words about her, that she was too ugly, that no guys would even try to date her or anything. In fact, she mentioned one time there was this guy that she liked, and it turns out this guy asked her out, and they were supposed to meet at the park by the fountain at a certain time. She went there, but she waited, and waited. But the next day when she went back to school, she found this guy, and he said, "Oh, so you really actually went there? I was really joking. I'm not going to ever date someone like you. You're like a stupid, ugly girl." And that made her crying a lot. And that was the final drop for her to be just leaving the school and to be transferred to the school that she is in now. Wow. Just wow, said Tony back. I can't believe it. Anyone be like that to a cute girl like you? Me? Cute? Well, yeah. I mean, I don't lie about this. I had never done that. Come on. Let's leave this place. But what about school? I mean, leave this room. I mean, let's go somewhere else. Okay. So they went to the library to try to cool down, and all that happened. And in fact, Tony and Angela stayed in the library the rest of the school time. This was actually the first time that Tony skipped the rest of the classes. And even Angela was the first day. She was worried that something would have her been suspended, or even worse, expelled. But he said to her that that's not something to worry about, because he will talk to the principal and explain. And in fact, the next day, when Tony went to school, he told Ben that he was going to see the principal. So he went to the principal's office, and the principal's like, "Tony, what are you doing this early morning? Can I talk to you?" Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Let's just sit down. So Tony sat down and they started talking. First, was just asking how he was doing and stuff like that. But then he came to the topic, to the seriousness. So, Tony, what can I do? Tony started explaining what's been happening. I can't believe it. The principal was aware of Simon being a bully to other students, but he wasn't really aware that he was the one behind the student dropped out earlier that year. I can't believe it. But are you sure that Angela wanted to be even to tell herself? Yeah, she's actually outside waiting. Alright, let her in. So Tony went, opened the door, and let her in. And she was asked by the principal the same thing, and she confirmed it. And they even had Ben to also confirm because he was there when it happened. Well, I'm glad you had the attention to brought my attention. So you three can go to your classes now. I will take care of this. So late at that lunch break, when Tony, Ben, and Angela were sitting and having the lunch, just talking, suddenly they were interrupted by someone screaming, "How could you?" They all turned around and saw Simon standing by the table, furious, red in the face. "How could you report me to our principal?" Tony was just said calmly, "Well, Simon, what you did yesterday, you deserved it. The principal said I could have been expelled, but I was willing to suspend it for 2 weeks." "Well, that's your fault," said Ben back. "If you hadn't been bullying others, you wouldn't have been in this situation." "How dare we? We telling the truth, Simon. You were the bullying here, not us. And others went around in this school can testify you've been bullying others. No one would even stand up against you. No one would even defend you for all this." And Simon turned around and looked around, and the others just nodded that they wouldn't even defend him at all. After that, he just turned around and walked away and didn't say a word. But after that, for the next 2 weeks, Simon wasn't back in school since he was suspended. But after those 2 weeks was passed, Tony and Ben actually overheard the principal say to one of the teachers that Simon isn't coming back. He will transfer to a different school for troubled kids. And Simon was now gone. Tony and Ben and basically all the other students at school was just felt relieved that Simon was gone. But during these 2 weeks that Simon was gone, Tony actually had asked Angela out on a date, and they went to the movies. He was happy to have been dating this amazing, beautiful girl. And in fact, ever since then, those 2 weeks, Angela had made more and more friends, and she had been more confident to come out as open up herself, to make more new friends. But as she realized that as those 2 weeks was going to be over, that Simon would eventually be back, and she was afraid that the bullying would restart once again. But when Tony and Ben told her in a break that Simon is not coming back because he left the school and went a different way, Angela was felt relieved. But even though she was worried that maybe that he could be back, he had the chance to do so. But he never did. Angela was really happy that Simon was never coming back to school. And Angela, ever since that Simon had asked her out, that Tony asked her out, she was really excited. After all of this, no one has ever stand up against her, for her, as Tony has. And she was really grateful to have such a great guy as Tony. And Tony, he really felt very excited to have such amazing girl in his life. Ever since then, Simon could not have been even better to be anyone like her. Even Tony's best friend Ben, he was really excited to see that Tony eventually found someone that he could be with, because after just those 2 weeks, Tony and Amber went on the movies, to the picnic, or just went to the mall to just hang out and just having a romantic time there. But even so, they were both afraid that when Simon would be back in those 2 weeks. But since he never did, there were no worries. There no had to be afraid of anything anymore. And after that happened, eventually both of them like finished high school, and they actually had a good time together. After they finished high school, they both were just happy to be done with it and decided to go to the same college. They went to a college out of state, and Angela, she wanted to be a nurse because she wanted to help others in need. So she went to like a medical school during university, the college. And Tony, Tony, he wanted to do something else, something else. He wanted to help others as well, but he decided he wanted to be a teacher. So he went to teacher schools in order to be in that, and eventually both of them actually finished. Tony had become a teacher, and Angela had finally become the nurse that she wanted. They moved back to their hometown, and sure enough, Tony actually started working as a teacher at the same high school that he used to be to, and Angela at the local hospital, and they were just having a great time. Had finished high school, college together, had the degree that they want to be working with. It was career, and after that, Tony actually proposed to Angela, and she said yes. They had a small wedding since the budget was very limited at that, and they had a great time. They even actually decided to went to this other different town to celebrate for their honeymoon for about a weekend, which was a great time. But something else though. Tony and Angela, 3 years after they were married, they found out they were expecting a baby girl. And they were happy. They named the daughter Kim. And only like 3 years later, they had actually found out they were expecting another baby. This time, a boy, which they named Ben, after his best friend. Ben was really excited to be this godfather to both the parents, to the both children. And this is how Amber and Angela and Tony found a true love got a big family together. The end.